What the hell happened to comedy? I know you might hear that and think I'm about to start talking about Dave Chappelle, political correctness, or how Blazing Saddles could never be made in this day and age. But that shit has already been said, ad nauseum, and honestly, I don't care. Besides, if any of it is true, then that fight is up to comedians, and if they won't stand up for their craft, then I sure as hell won't. No, what I mean is, why isn't anything funny? Why is it that the comedic gems of this generation don't hold a candle to the barrage of comedies from just a few decades prior? Why isn't any of this shit funny? And again, this isn't meant to be some commentary about how the world around us is turned into some dystopic hellscape where satire needs fact-checking and any deviation from the current Twitter dogma means you can expect to be descended upon by a group of mentally ill locusts and a call from your HR department. Or that the thought of laughter seems like a distant memory as our collective standard of living begins to resemble the horror stories that emerge from the old Soviet bloc. I mean, there are comedies. People are making them and some other people are enjoying them. But they all suck and they're not funny. And I want to understand why. Because people didn't just forget how to be funny. Something came along and killed it. And I'm going to do my damnedest to figure out what it was. Have you ever thought about what makes something funny? I mean, really think about it down to the finest detail. Taken a joke or a bit and opened it up like a med school cadaver to see just what was going on in there. That's a good place to start, so let's think about what makes us laugh. First, you have the element of surprise. Someone takes something that you previously understood and shows it to you in a different angle or perspective, shines a light on it in a way you'd never considered, and that sense of surprise in something relatable can make the consideration humorous. It's the element we most associate with stand-up comedy, where a good comedian can take almost anything from everyday life and just riff on it for 10 minutes in unique and interesting ways. Secondly, you have the element of generative understanding. This is where the comedian does something that is outside the bounds of general social norms, but through their delivery they are able to communicate a sort of internal logic that the audience comes to agree with or at least understand. And through the audience discovering this newfound understanding, it's comical and produces laughter. Finally, you have context. This is when something is funny, but only in the context of the situation. Think of Kramer walking in, smacking money down onto Jerry's counter and proclaiming, "I'm out." Nothing about this is funny, but in the context of the story, it becomes memorable and hilarious. Now, aside from these three dimensions of comedy, there exists an ugly cousin, the fourth dimension. The one few dare even acknowledge, let alone meddle with. The element of edge. Now, does being edgy make something funny? No. In fact, it's often so precarious that it isn't even worth attempting. But its value is still worth considering. Have you ever heard a comedian tell a joke and the audience laughs in a way that is audibly different from all the others? It has this deep, guttural pitch, like they were groaning and laughing at the exact same time. That is the sound of a person who has just had their morals truly challenged. They are laughing at the fact that their personal sensibilities have just been thrown back in their face. As someone on the internet once famously put it, it is as if they have witnessed a sacred cow being slaughtered right before their eyes, and yet they laugh, in spite of themselves. That's why people cherish edgy jokes, because the truth is nothing else has this effect. The ability to cause someone to enjoy something while simultaneously thinking deeply about it in the exact same moment. And the price a comedian pays for creating such a moment is that some people won't enjoy it at all. They'll just type furiously into their phones, trying to exact punishment for the person who challenged them. Okay, so we have three dimensions and a renegade bastard fourth. So what? Well, as far as I can tell, what happened to comedy is that it was murdered. Murdered by someone who thought they could take these intricate, complex dimensions and whittle them down until only one remained, for the purposes of streamlining the whole process. Yes, it was you, Surprise. But you didn't do this alone. No, you must have had some help. Help from a devilish fiend who would have been too smart to make themselves known. Someone who has yet to show their face. I give you the murderer. Randomness. You're familiar with his work. You may know him from a Family Guy cutaway gag, or when Rick on Rick and Morty starts prattling on about some obscure McDonald's condiment from the 90s, when the Doctor puts on a fez and says fezzes are cool, when Tony Stark says he wants shawarma, or like anything from Deadpool. It's funny because of how random it is. Get it? It's random, so that means it's funny. Do you get it? Do you get it? And it's everywhere, all of the time. Put on any pop culture movie trailer and you'll find it. Some buffoon will refer to something random and out of context, and it will cut to other characters giving a deadpan expression as if to communicate, wow, that was a random thing you just said. It is simply put the opposite of comedy. It doesn't require a mutual understanding since it comes from nowhere. It doesn't require a unique perspective because the only perspective is that it is random, coming from nothing, dissolving into nothing. And there is no context because, again, it was inserted randomly into any and every situation. Finally, there's no edge because there is nothing less challenging than referring to something at random. Randomness is the comedy world eater, devouring humor until there's nothing left but obscure pop culture references and food. Where everything stops, characters make a facial expression like something random was just said, and that's it, that's the joke. South Park once did a 2-part episode on this way back when, mocking Family Guy as a show written by sea manatees, picking random things to cut away with, itself a random thing. And while it may seem easy to simply blame Seth MacFarlane as the harbinger, I just don't think it's that simple. Much of the humor is random, but it takes place in an absurd and chaotic world. Whereas the cancer of randomness that we see now, it's set in stark contrast to everything around it, and the juxtaposition is what makes it effective. No, like many petty, embittered people, I choose to blame the generation that immediately followed mine. See, when I was in my early 20s, I managed a record store near the boardwalk. This was before the resurgence of vinyl, so record stores weren't nearly as douchey as what we find today. It was mostly just scene kids buying CDs and DVDs, and if that sounds awesome to you, then I will tell you that this job was even better than your wildest imagination. We'd all just hang out, take turns playing CDs on the stereo system, pick through free promo copies that the record company sent us, and eat pizza. By my estimation, it was as much fun as a person is legally allowed to have while getting paid. But it also meant working with people slightly younger than me. Teenagers still in or just out of high school, who had the coolest job in the world and whose friends often popped in to hang out or just say hi. And despite being just a few years older than them, the biggest disparity I saw between us were the things that they all thought were so goddamn funny. Hi everyone, I'm new. Holds up Spork. My name is Katie, but you can call me the Penguin of Doom. LOL. As you can see, I'm very random. That's why I came here, to meet people like me. I'm 13 years old. I'm mature for my age, though. I like to watch Invader Zim with my girlfriend. I'm bi. If you don't like it, deal with it. It's our favorite TV show, because it's so random. She's random too, of course, but I want to meet more random people. Like they say, the more the merrier. LOL. Anyways, I hope to make lots of friends here, so give me lots of comments. Doom! Me being random again. Heh toodles. Love and waffles. To Penguin of Doom. Did that hurt? This is an ancient internet copy pasta making fun of a very real sensibility. LOL random. This is what killed comedy. Those teenagers in the record store, no matter what clique they belonged to, be it emo, scene, goth, metalhead, they were all exactly like this. Their personalities, sensibilities, and senses of humor were predicated on internet culture. It's a culture, but everything is streamlined to the apex of efficiency. Want to make someone laugh? Well, crafting jokes is hard and takes time. Just blurt out something at random. Now we'll all do it, millions of us at the same time, until the cream of randomness rises to the top and something funny is said. DeviantArt, Tumblr, Reddit, this stuff spread like you wouldn't believe. And as I've gotten older, the thing I realize is that ridiculous things from the internet don't just go away. In fact, the culture at large usually bends to meet them. The people that propagate it get jobs, some of them important, and eventually the person driving creative fields is the same person with a fondness for, does the narwhal bacon? Doge, and other LOL so random internet jokes. That's what happened to comedy. It was the millennials. The scene kids telling nonsensical random jokes on the internet. It permeated the culture to the point that it engulfed everything. the same way automobile plants once swallowed carriage manufacturers. There may be something deeper to be said about this. Some commentary about how the artistic structures of old are dismantled in favor of some absurd anarchy. It's happened with poetry, art, architecture, hell, even food. Maybe there's something to be said about the nature of man rejecting his past, an extension of childish rebellion in an age of prolonged arrested development, or perhaps the heart of man giving in to the temptations of chaos at the expense of our very soul. But if that is a discussion to be had, it won't be by me. I fully recognize that I am not nearly intelligent or eloquent enough to meet it. But I will leave you with this final thought. There are people out there who want you to believe that all that once was an ugly disgrace, and that if you let them build upon its ashes, it will be paradise. But before you let them do that, ask yourself, what do you see when you gaze upon a very old building, where you see people standing in front of it and taking its picture hundreds of years after it was built? Why has it stood the test of time, while everything that came after it needs remodeling every few decades?